Have you had an encounter with the king of the forest, and would you like to have it narrated on this channel? Well, if so, send me an email. You can email me at contact@buckeyebigfoot.com. Well, hey there, everyone. Welcome back. Now listen, tonight's journey into Sasquatch Valley, well, we're going into an area that has long been wrapped up in lore and legend, the Great Smoky Mountains. And this is horse trail country if there ever was any. So grab your saddlebags and don't forget your snackage, and let's head on down the trail. The Sasquatches are waiting for us. Let's go. My dream is to someday hike the Appalachian Trail from one end to the other. I'm still a long way from that, but I am working up to it by hiking as often as I can, by hiking different trails with different levels of challenges in different seasons throughout the year. I rarely stay out for more than 2 nights in a row, mostly because I have a wife and some children at home, and one of my children has severe physical challenges and limitations. And while he's good for some light day trips to parks, and he does enjoy them, taking him out on a hike in the mountains overnight, that's off the table. So I don't stay gone hiking for long. But someday, I'm going to do the whole trail. Well, the thing I'm writing about showed up when I was in the Great Smoky Mountains. I had planned an overnight hike starting at the North Carolina side, taking the Chestnut Branch up to the Appalachian Trail, then follow it down to 32. From there, I would turn around and reverse my steps. Now, that night, I would stay at the Davenport Gap shelter, then in the morning continue reverse hiking back out to where I was parked at Big Creek. This is roughly 6.5 miles each way. I made the hike out to 32, then turned around and headed back to the Davenport shelter before nightfall. The shelter had other people there, which it usually does. I don't like sleeping in the shelters themselves. Through the years, I've had to endure everything from lovebirds getting it on in the middle of the night to thievery and attempted thievery, and so much more. I am happier in my little tent set up near the shelter. I do like to stay at the shelters for the fire rings at night and the camp toilets and, well, just to have other people around at night in case something should happen. And everything went as smooth as could be that day and all through the night. That morning, everyone else was heading in the direction I had been in yesterday, while I was heading the opposite direction, retracing my steps from the day before back down to where I was parked. So when I headed out, I was heading in a direction and a part of the trail completely alone. I came off of the Appalachian Trail down onto the Chestnut Branch, and about 5 minutes into the trail, I had a very strong feeling of the heebie-jeebies, or whatever you want to call them. It surprised me because I knew this trail well. I'd never had this before. But it felt like the hairs on my arms and my neck were prickling up. Goosebumps, that's what I call them. I've only had this happen once before, well, when I didn't know why it was happening anyway. And that was when I almost walked right up to a mama bear and her cubs out in Montana. I had that weird feeling and I slowed down, and that's what saved me. Mama bear didn't know I was there. I was higher up than they were on a trail. It was where it was switching back and forth. They kept walking down the trail below me. If I hadn't stopped when I did, I would have come around that bend, and I would have walked right out on top of them. Or perhaps Mama Bear would have heard me at least. And you know, brown bears, they're not known for their friendliness. The wind was in my favor, or she would have smelled me. Talking that over with a coworker once, he said he thought I smelled the bear, even though I didn't know that I smelled it, and that there was something in my ancient DNA back in my brain. Ancient DNA is what he called it. He said there was something there that knew I was smelling something dangerous, even if I didn't consciously recognize it. He said he believes that a lot of what helped our Ice Age ancestors survive and fight dangerous animals was that exact DNA and instinct. It was the ability to detect danger. An internal alarm, he called it. Now, I'm no one to say it's one thing or the other, but I have to think he might just be right. Point is, I never forgot the feeling that I had there in Montana that day. And so when it came to me that day on the Appalachian Trail, I took notice and I listened. I was in the Smokies after all, so of course I'm thinking I'm about to run into a black bear. I stepped off the trail quietly and waited. I was listening for the sound of a bear moving through, but there was nothing at all to hear. I waited for maybe 3 or 4 minutes solid. Seemed like forever, though. I didn't see or hear a thing. I got back out on the trail, but I kept my head on a swivel, as they say. It struck me as odd, though, because I ran into black bears out there before, and never had I had that heebie-jeebie feeling, but I still paid attention anyway. I was walking slow, and I came to another bend in the trail, and there was a slight elevation drop as it made the curve. I came to just see around the bend, and I saw a large brownish-black hairy thing on the trail. I thought I was looking at the rump of a big bear. It was blocking the whole trail. I stopped. On either side of the trail, there was a lot of brush. I knew if I stepped off the trail, the bear would hear it, no matter how quietly I tried to be. I know what you're supposed to do with a bear. I really do. But there was enough distance that if I could step out of sight and let it go on its way, I thought that would be the way to go. Everyone tells me I was wrong to not start yelling right away at this bear, but I had made my choice. It was facing away from me. If it got up and it just kept walking in that direction, everything would be fine. There would be no confrontation at all. If I started yelling, I could provoke a confrontation. I did have bear spray with me, and I did unclip it and make ready. But those seconds waiting, they seemed like forever. I was looking at it nonstop, and after a second or two, I thought this was the weirdest bear rump ever. There was a split of butt cheeks, but they were at the bottom, almost on the trail dirt. I wondered if the bear was sitting up on its haunches, but then I couldn't see the outline of a head. Nothing I was seeing made sense. But then it all made sense when it stood up. No bear in the history of everdom had a body like that. The legs were long, straight, and very thick. They went right up to the butt cheeks, which were now 4 feet or higher from the trail dirt. This wasn't some bear standing up with bowed legs out from the hip sockets. I've seen that before. Now I could see the head outline. It was in view. It was a big coconut of a head sitting on top of a set of wide shoulders. With the sunlight starting to come in through the trees, I could see the indent of the spine under the hair on its back. The indent was a dark shadow from the sun, and that line went right to the crack of the butt cheeks. I stood there and didn't move a muscle. I don't even think I was breathing. I wanted it to keep walking down the trail away from me. My mind was flashing thoughts of what I should do, but nothing seemed like the right thing. I knew when it stood up there was no fooling myself any more about what I was seeing. That was the backside of a Bigfoot. I just kept staring and waiting. I was completely open and exposed on the trail. My only hope was that it would keep going and not know I was there. I got my wish, too. It took several steps, maybe about 10. Then it stopped and squatted down again, like it was looking for something on the trail. It did move its arms like it was doing something in front of it, but I couldn't see what. In a few more seconds it stood up again, and it went walking on down the trail. It was far down from me when I started to breathe easy again. At the closest point, I would say I was 30 or 40 feet away from it. After it walked and squatted again, I would say it was about 100 feet from me. All the years I'd been hiking those trails through the Smokies, and everyone told me to be very careful. That's black bear territory. And it certainly is. As I said, I've seen more than a few of them, but none threatened me, and none made my heart skip like that day, or gave me that heebie-jeebie feeling. From that day on, I decided the Smokies are Bigfoot territory. If you listen to the local native Cherokee in the area, they will tell you Bigfoot is all in those mountains and has been for as long as there has been memory. The numbers now, though, the numbers of the Bigfoot, they say, are not as great as they once were, so that's why we don't see them as often anymore. But they say they are still there. I didn't know whether or not to believe them, but I do believe them now. And it only takes seeing a Bigfoot once, and you not only believe, you know. That's me. I'm a knower now. I know not every encounter is worthy of some big email to you, and this one might not be much, but it is what I saw. I only saw it from behind, but I've told you what I can about it. The only other thing was the bottom of its feet were a dark gray, almost a black color. I could see that when it picked up its feet and walked, and it picked the feet up very high. The fur all over was a gray-brown, more like the bark of a tree. The second I saw it, though, the fur color, that was the first thing that seemed weird to me. A black bear is a deep, glossy black color. Brown bears are a rich brown, whether they're light brown or dark brown. The color of this Bigfoot's hair, that was nothing like those. It was the color of dark tree bark in the Smoky Mountains. Sort of brown, sort of gray. I stayed there for about a half hour more on the trail. I wanted to give it time to go its own way and do its own thing. When I did resume my hiking, I went slow, and I checked the curves and elevation drops before moving ahead. I stopped and I listened a lot. I checked my right and my left, doing the head swivel thing all the way back to Big Creek parking. When I got to my car, I put my gear in the trunk. Then I sat down in my car and let out a low breath. I let it sink in. I had just seen a Bigfoot. I wasn't sure exactly what I was feeling, but mostly I was glad that it hadn't been a threatening situation. Another thing is that I didn't have the bad smells from the Bigfoot that people often talk about. But I do think my coworker is on to something, because I remember I was downwind of that Bigfoot. I remember standing there and feeling the light wind hit my face and thinking I was glad the Bigfoot couldn't smell me. So this makes me think there's something in me that did maybe smell the Bigfoot, something I didn't realize, and something told me to be slow, cautious, and aware. Like everyone interested in this subject, I've read and heard all the native accounts about battles with Bigfoot through the years, how they are said to take women and children for centuries, and how some say they eat humans. If any of that is true, it might explain that something in my brain did pick up their scent, and something very old, some ancient DNA inside of me, recognized that could be dangerous. This is not me telling you that I think Bigfoot is going around eating people. This is me telling you I think I may have smelled the Bigfoot without knowing it, and something inside me made me aware. That's all. And I will never ignore that feeling again. And if you get a strange feeling while you're in the woods, don't ignore it. That could be your ancient DNA talking. I have shared this experience with other people in my life, and luckily I haven't had much blowback from it. I have sent this to 2 other channels over the last year, but I haven't heard them tell it on their shows. I hope you will. My wife said that I should have sent it to you first anyway. She has listened to you for quite a few years, and now I'm listening. Mostly I listen to Cam or Steve. After this experience, my wife refused to let me go hiking overnight alone. And the Christmas after this happened, she bought me a satellite messenger device. I can mark waypoints, send an SOS, and best of all, I can communicate with text messages back home at any time via satellite. If you go out hiking or anything where it might be hard to find you, please get one. Personal locator beacons are good to hit that SOS for an emergency, but I recommend the extra features of a two-way satellite messenger. I don't mean to sound like a commercial, but every time I watch some missing persons thing on YouTube, I can't help but think to myself, I wonder if they would have been found if they'd had a locator beacon, or if we would have known what happened to them if they had been able to send a single last message. Yeah, I really think that when I hear those stories about missing people. So please, get one for yourself or get one for someone you love. And I'm not saying Bigfoot is why people are missing. I saw that huge fight in the comments on one of your recent videos. I'm just saying, no matter what the reason, maybe a locator beacon or a satellite phone or messenger might have helped some of those people. If nothing else, maybe it just would have helped their loved ones to understand what happened. That's all. Anyway, if you think this email is worth your time, by all means, please tell it on your show. Signed, Randy. All right, well, thank you for that, Randy. And you know, you might be onto something with the smell being recognized by something deep in our ancestry DNA or brain. I mean, who knows? I have read that much of the human brain is still a great mystery to science. So you just might be right, or rather your coworker. Okay, well, let's see. I really don't have much else for everyone tonight. I want to thank you to everyone who has already sent something in for Squatchmas, which that starts this Friday, December 13th. I don't know if I have enough for all 12 days yet. I've had a couple more just trickle in, and I'm happy about that. But I am working to get all 12 days. If not, if I have to take a day break here or there, you'll know. Additionally, speaking of the whole Great Smoky Mountains, around this time of year, I usually announce to you that I'll be at the Great Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference in Gatlinburg in July. Unfortunately, I need to let you all know I will not be there in 2025. I do have my eyes set on 2026, and if that happens, I will let you know when, and I will give you all the details. Just thought I'd let you know now. All right, everyone. Well, listen, that's it. The next you'll hear from me will be the kickoff for Squatchmas this Friday, December 13th. I hope my voice holds out. I've not been sick, but for some reason, my voice has been going in and out a lot lately. So bear with me, folks. I'll do my best for you. Thanks for being so supportive. I love you all. See you soon. Oh, and don't forget, until we meet again, absence of proof is not proof of absence. Thanks for listening.